Hello, I'm Odin, and today I'm building a prop that was requested by my Patreons. It's Tech's helmet. He's a unique clone from the Bad Batch in the final season of the Clone Wars. I modified this dome pattern from my Captain Rex helmet. I stretched it 10% horizontally because Tech's helmet has a little more of a brow in the front. Now originally my Captain Rex dome pattern was modified from my pattern that I made for the Heavy Infantry Mandalorian helmet. And now honestly, if you think about it, all of that makes sense because the clones were, well, cloned from someone who was at the time a Mandalorian. And the character Tech is a genetic mutation from a typical clone. So anyway, copy the pattern, cut the parts from 6mm HD foam, and glue everything together with contact cement. All right, that's interesting. So I mentioned that I did a 10% stretch. And what I'm seeing is that across the brow, it's got a little bit of a peak, and it's got a little bit of a peak in the back, which makes sense. The two extreme ends would be stretched more with a horizontal only stretching. I wanted a 4mm piece on the inside to make the dome look thicker anyway, and that gives me a line to trim off the extra peak. The back of the helmet is almost the easiest part to build. Starting with a 4mm piece, I cut a series of wedges out of the top of the foam. This will follow the inside curve of the dome and the rest will still hang straight. I got a plate of 6mm HD foam. The bottom is slightly curved. It's a little higher in the back. That seems right. Then I patterned out the 10mm T-piece. It's a common design in clone helmets. I made sure the bottom matched the curve of the previous piece. There are two little panels in the back that look like the panels from the classic Stormtrooper helmet, and a 4mm horseshoe panel that fits in the back of the dome just above the T-piece. And that's it for the back. Tech has 6-sided ear covers. They kind of look like low poly Princess Leia hair. I modeled my basic shape using Tinkercad and then brought the OBJ file into Armorsmith Designer, which unwrapped it for me and gave me this pattern. This allowed me to make the ear covers in pieces that fit together instead of using solid layers. The side panels were all cut with bevels, 45 degrees on the long sides and just under 60 degrees for the short edges. The second layer of the covers was done the same way, but the parts were a little different. And this time I included a base inside for the panels to sit on. This really helped for the stability of the covers, so I'm actually going to add one underneath the first layer as well. After the panels are all glued onto the second layer, I trimmed the sides with my bandsaw because these edges, they should be 90 degrees from the first layer. Next, I want to start working on the face. I really wanted the sides to be just a single piece of foam with no seams. So I started with some craft foam just to kind of figure out the shape. I also printed a few pictures at the scale that I was expecting to use. I matched the size of the picture to my ear covers. Of course, a two-dimensional drawing is not exactly the same shape as a 3D object. So after a few attempts and lots of cut foam, I settled on a new direction. I'll make the goggles first. Getting the size to match with the lenses was a lot easier. And getting the profile to fit my face was a little more difficult.
Down here, I need to lose a little more.
After I got my pattern, I cut the final pieces from 4mm wet the foam. Now this stuff is a lot tougher than the typical EVA foam. I figured the bridge of the nose wouldn't distort, and the sides would be strong enough to actually hold up against elastic. I cut the lenses from polycarbonate plastic. I used a bandsaw, but polycarbonate, you could actually cut that with some heavy-duty scissors. Goggles. They're dirty, but goggles. Hey, look, I get a nice reflection off the lights, but it's all right. And now that I had goggles, I could get the nose to fit right. I also made the mouthpiece to help with the angles on the face or snout. The first version was still wrong.
Could have figured that out if I had just checked, you know. It's foam.
It took so long it felt like it was all day, but I did get a face piece that wrapped around the mouthpiece correctly, and it started to look right on the head cast. And it mostly fit on me as well.
All right, well, am I getting somewhere? Do my low poly Princess Leia buns? Yeah, sort of, maybe. All right.
So I glue the face on and try again.
there is no way this is going to go on with goggles on. And this is with less stuff on the helmet. There's more stuff to go on the helmet. All right, well, it went on. They'll all come off together. All right, maybe. I don't think so.
One of the things I needed was a piece of aluminum for the bridge of the nose, just like a medical face mask. And once it was glued in, it'll pull the foam closer to the shape of my nose. Now, I need to seal up the sides, but they don't have to be perfect. It's mostly covered by the ears. After some floor mat prototypes and some creative cursing, I have a pattern for the sides of the head. I cut these from 10mm foam.
All right, now one problem I have, one thing that I kind of did wrong, this is supposed to be flush with this. So the outside plane of the cheekbone is supposed to be flush with the outside plane of this out here. So that means this whole front piece, I'm gonna need to cut again and re-glue. Dang it. All right.
The next major piece I wanted to get was the respirator, and I'm still not 100% happy with the one I made for Captain Rex, so I wanted this one to look better. Now, the round part was easy. Copy the diameter from the art with a 10mm black EVA core. Once I knew how long I really needed it, I cut them down. Getting them placed was difficult. It was messy and mostly aggravating. Typical building, really, but I did get them placed. And the cheek panels were cut from some thin 2mm craft foam. They were made oversized, so you could easily glue them in.
Come on. Oh, come on. Ugh.
If you glue them in right the first time. The respirator pipes were another round of trying something and changing it till it fits.
So this is gluing on here. Right. Okay, that's not, because that angle's wrong, so I could ignore that angle. And then this piece wants to go on kind of here.
Eventually, I got a set curled over and they fit really well. The seams in the dome needed sanding. I was not going to ignore them anymore. To make his heads-up display visor, I cut 2 sets of each part with some 4mm wet the foam, and I can use a thin sheet of translucent yellow plastic for the screen. I can use a combination of 2-sided tape and contact cement to hold the screen in place while I glue the parts together. The tape will stick to the yellow plastic, so there's no need to smear glue all over it. The hardest part was keeping a slight curve on the screen while I stuck them together. The arms have a cutout panel on each side. I also had made marks where I wanted the hinge pin to be. I used my bandsaw to make a 45-degree bevel for each corner. I didn't want to see the cut edges stacked up when it's finished. I pushed the backing plates for large leather snaps through some pilot holes.
So because this is a moving part on top of a piece of metal that I want to use as an axle, basically the nail, right? I've got the back end of the snap stuck through it, so I have something metal on something metal. It's going to last a lot longer. And well, you know, it's a hinge.
Once I got the placement on the helmet, and I had a solid idea of how the ears will fit, I add a couple of stops to the visor so it can rest on them. It'll easily just sit in the down position. But to keep the visor in the up position, I decided I needed to install a couple of sets of magnets. I glue one in the side of the helmet, and using the grinding stone and a rotary tool to make a magnet-sized hole, I then glue the other one into the side of the visor. I put a little tape over each magnet because I don't want them tearing out of the foam. Now, when I lift the visor up, it stops with a satisfying click and stays in the upright position.
Now I think I'm ready to paint it.
With all the parts made, I start to cover the helmet with a latex acrylic paint. I saw William Shakespeare use gloss black paint on his xenomorph, and I thought I could give my helmet a couple of coats. The white worked really well. I can see some of the brush strokes in the dried paint, but that actually matches the art from the show. For the final paint, I start with a red center line. One of the harder things to do is to allow the paintbrush to make streaks and let some of the white show through. Because most of the paint on the clone helmets actually does this. It's just part of the art of the show. All the gray that I'm painting on was actually a mixed color, or tone, I guess. The medium gray in the PlaidFX line is a metallic color. I don't want metallics in the helmet. I also use this gray to dry brush the goggles. The foam is black already, so I only need to dry brush it. The same is true for the visor. I'm really mindful of the lenses. I don't really want paint on my lenses. With everything painted medium gray, I use the light gray to just dry brush or weather the rest of the parts of the helmet. Tech's gear is pretty dirty, and this one light color both darkens the white and lightens the medium gray. Now I still want a light dry brush coat of white over the corners, on the helmet, and on the visor. I'll set the visor in place with nails, and then I make cuts into the white paint so the contact cement can actually get through it and stick to the foam. And then glue the ear covers on. I had made a second set of goggles without elastic straps because I need to permanently glue them into the helmet. I use EVA foam dowels to put all the antennae that go in the back of the helmet. And then I can add the pixelated lightning skull to each earpiece using some Mod Podge. Most of the materials I used are available to order, and you can have them shipped right to you. I put a list in the links in the description. Tech's helmet is probably my favorite helmet from Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I really like the goggles, I really like the little heads-up display visor, and I'm interested in the fact that the face is actually open. Are there any other clones that have an open face helmet like this? I'm really not sure. Now I've got 2 more Clone Wars helmets that I'm planning on building, as voted on by my Patreon supporters. And those will be coming up. But I'm going to be building them out of foam because this is how Odin makes. Now, when I was building it, something occurred to me that I didn't really kind of realize when I was watching the show. And that Tech, who is this one tech-savvy, computer hacking clone, is the only clone that wears glasses. I guess you just can't shake stereotypes, even in a galaxy far, far away.
Be down 6 millimeters because I'm going to wrap 6 millimeters around it. Now I got a hole.
I want to thank Phoebe Chow, Brenna, and all of my Patreon supporters. My Patreon support is the #1 thing that makes this show possible. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Have an idea for something for me to make? Please leave a comment below. And if you make any of these projects, you can send me a picture.